It sounds crazy, but you cannot make decisions based on money.
No.
Otherwise, it's totally reflective of your whole business model when you start doing that.
I don't want to be a product of my environment. I want my environment to be a product of me.
Prestige Living Podcast.
So with that, who do you want to be? Hello, welcome to Prestige Living, your podcast that delves into the lifestyles and routines of the movers and shakers of Orange County, real-life entrepreneurs and their story as to how they stopped working for someone else to create a business of their own. I'm your host, Jay O'Brien, with your co-host, Jordan Wilson.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
So today our guest is one of the most highlighted women in Orange County, servicing a range of high-end clients to vastly popular businesses. Her self-founded PR company delivers solutions around marketing, event planning, public relations, retail management, and consulting. I've personally had experience with her services and have witnessed the success of growing businesses in the community that attribute their upward trend directly to her efforts. She's a very busy woman and one of the most influential in the county. Her company is called Sterling Public Relations, and we are so pleased to have her with us today. And without further ado, here she is, Paula Steurer. Paula, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here. So, first and foremost, tell me how this all began.
Oh boy. You know what? Honestly, just like a lot of other people we know, I was not about to work for somebody else, and I figured that out very early on in my career. So, truth be told, one day while I was working at another PR firm, I just decided that I was sort of sick of servicing clients who I felt like weren't getting the one-on-one personalized service and or the results that they needed. I had come from a very large PR firm, did great work, but people were treated like a number, which I hate. I'm Italian, and so that seemed very inauthentic to me. It just rubbed me the wrong way. And went to work for a very small firm, great firm, but they just didn't have the resources that they needed to produce the right results. So I ended up really trying to branch out and start a firm that was really a hybrid between the two. So I offer personalized service. I work hand in hand with my clients, but we produce great results, which is a really, really hard thing to achieve, especially for a boutique firm like mine.
So you were in PR beforehand. Mm-hmm. So how does one get into PR? Like, is that something you study in college, or what? How does that happen?
I don't think anybody sets out to get into PR. I either think it's something that resonates with you, or it's something you stumble upon, or you don't end up in that industry, because it's not for everybody and it's not for the faint of heart.
Okay, so when you started, you were with the big company, then you went to the boutique, and then you said, I want to do things entirely different. I'm going to do them on my own. Mm-hmm. Why Sterling? Why call it Sterling?
In all seriousness, I actually thought to myself, you know what? I never know if I'm going to have children or not. And I did know I wanted a career, and so I thought, well, in the event that I don't have children, I'm going to name my business after what I would name a child, which was Sterling, and so that way I've got my bases covered.
Wow.
All boxes
I love
are checked.
that.
Oh, exactly.
We always told my business partner that he should have named his first son Max, and so he could name his second son Remax. and then
I love that.
Then we'd have the same thing where your business is your baby.
It is, literally.
That's the new slogan for us, by the way. Remax, where your business is your baby.
Now, this is very important to me. I have to ask you, what part of Italy are you from?
My family is Sicilian.
Mine too.
Really?
I felt a connection from Palermo, Sicily.
Oh, you're kidding me. So you're fiery then?
I've been called fiery.
That's a good
I've been
thing.
called a lot of other things.
That's actually, I think it's on your business card.
Yeah, the fiery realtor.
You're fired. Okay,
Yeah.
So I have a question. How, when you get started on this, and you had a PR background, when you started your very own, how did you get your first client? Was it someone from the old books, or is this like a brand new gig, or what?
It was. The clients that I worked with while I was working for other firms really connected with me on a personal level, and although I did not solicit to them when I left, naturally people wanted to follow, and so people knew how to get a hold of me, and honestly I had clients right from the beginning. But my blessing and sort of my kickstart really came from Ocean Magazine, which is no longer in print. Unfortunately, they went out in 2008, like a lot of other businesses did. but I knew their founders. And so in 2007, towards the end of the year, they brought me on to help with PR pro bono. I was completely not paid, but I did it really to get my name out there and build connections. And from that, I was able to really kickstart my career. So I'm really grateful for that opportunity.
So if I'm a client, and I'm deciding between Sterling and another company, give me like the elevator pitch. Like, what sets you apart from PR firm A, B, and C?
That's a very, very simple answer. No one will provide the type of service that I do for my clients, the type of connection that I have with the community, with the results, period. You're either going to get a big firm that's going to treat you like a number, high priced. They'll produce, moderate results, or you're going to get a small time firm that doesn't have the resources to get the job done.
I love that. So what do you think specifically has set you apart to have the resources to do that and to be different? Is it just like your personal drive, or is there something behind it all?
I think the reason behind my success is honestly because I don't do things like everybody else does. I think outside the box. I don't follow a book. I tend to push the limits on different things that I do, and I'm innovative. We live in a world with so many resources. We might as well utilize them. I'm all about research and figuring out how to get the job done. I'm not somebody who takes no for an answer, which can be a great thing depending upon who you are. It can also be a tough thing depending upon what seat you're sitting in. I always make the joke that no is my favorite word because it means we're not done talking yet.
I like that.
Yeah, so we talk about this a lot on this show, is that we interview a lot of people of the millennial generation, and I feel that it's because we're the biggest population to date, is that we're the most influential, and we're not afraid of the no, and we're not afraid of doing things our way versus subscribing to what people have done previously. And that's what people buy, is that authenticity. It sets us apart, and I love that. And I've seen it in your work, both witnessing it and experiencing it myself. And I think you're absolutely right. People buy people. And when you talk about your old PR firms that you worked for and how people came with you, it's because, we live in a generation now where we're not buying brands. We're buying people behind those brands. And the brand could disappear overnight if the people disappear,
So true.
So tell me about one of your most difficult clients.
Ooh, well, the most difficult clients, honestly, are always the creative individuals. Creative souls have to be cultivated in a very different way, and I'm polar opposite of that. So that's always been a fun challenge, is trying to figure out how I can relate and work with creative types. I did have a boutique once, an older owner who had come to me and said, I've been in business for 35 years. We love what we do, but we just realize we're not connected with the modern world. We don't understand social media. We don't have a good touch on our, graphic design. Our website's a disaster. We need branding help. So we put together a whole branding overlay. New logo, completely refreshed website, brand new social media. But you know what? This client, although he wanted change, he was so set in his ways that it was a struggle along the way, because he was saying he wanted change, but really he hadn't made that inner decision to sort of accept that change had to happen. And so it became a battle. And one thing I have always said to all of my clients is that if we ever get to a point when the working relationship is not working, we both need to walk away. I'm not someone who, takes clients because I, quote unquote, need to fill business slots. That's not my attitude. I want to work with people that I love and brands that have a vision and want to grow. So for me, if I ever get into a situation like that, I'm ahead of the curve, and I recognize that we need to part ways, and we did. And I wish them all the best.
Yep, we see it in our industry all the time, and we always say it. We only work with people that we like, trust, and respect, and where the feeling's mutual. Because if the working relationship is, if you're butting heads or don't trust one another, it's just, everyone's kind of just doing it out of compliance, and just it's very obvious that it's just a means to an end. It's you're doing it for money at that point, and it's one of the things that it's so important to be able to say, I love all of my clients, because you are the one filtering it all out yourself, Well, and your clients are a representation of you at the end of the day, and there's a responsibility on both parts. I completely agree. Do you have employees working for you?
I do. I have a real lean team. I have myself, a full-time graphic designer, and a full-time assistant.
Nice. Yeah, so they probably stay very busy.
Very, very busy. And my structure is a little different. I always interface with my clients, which my clients love because you get me 100% of the time. You know, my assistants are great because they do the behind the scenes work, which helps me, you know, have the time I need to have and spend the time I need to spend with my clients. But it's a curse because I can only take so many clients at any given time. But, you know, throughout the years, I think every business goes through transition. And I've been in that spot before where I've said, do I want to hire more staff? You know, does it make sense? It would help me grow. But you know what? If I did that, it totally goes against what I set out to do. Quality service, working one-on-one with clients, and I am not about to start farming out work. It just won't happen.
Wow, that's impressive. So, I mean, when this all began, you founded the company in 2008, right?
I did, January.
So 2008, arguably the worst year to start any business, right?
It was horrendous.
So tell me about that. I want to hear all about how horrendous it was.
Well, everyone around me thought I had lost my mind because I left a very comfortable job. I hired my own staff. I made my own schedule. I worked really with my own accounts. Great salary, great benefits. So to start my own company from scratch, mind you, was like asinine. I mean, no one around me could understand why I would make that decision when I did, but my attitude was and still is, if I could make it then, when it was at its worst, I could make it any time. And honestly, it just made me work that much harder. I wouldn't have done it differently. Looking back, I'm really, really glad that's when I decided to make the move.
How many times have we heard that now in doing these podcasts? Like when they go to start something, the people have always said, everyone thought I was crazy.
Right, because, I mean, I heard this once before, and I think it's totally true. And it's unfortunate, but, you know, people don't want you to succeed in general. You know, your friends and your family, they want you to be stuck in time because it's comfortable. It's super comfortable. It's like the same reason why, if you remember the TV show Friends, it's like Joey's an actor from season 1 to season 10. They live in the same apartment from season 1 to season 10. No one likes the change. They feel comfortable and they want everyone to be stuck in time, you know, like frozen in time. And when people evolve out of that, it makes other people reflect and feel uncomfortable. So anytime you're going to take the risk, I feel very rarely is it that someone genuinely is concerned about your well-being not being able to make it. It's more that they're concerned that you're going to be really successful. And I know that might sound cynical, but I think that that's the truth.
I would agree with you, actually. I would. You know, I see it time and time again with clients who are bringing me in to help them go through series of change. And I see it in the employees that they have. I see it in, you know, their circle of peers. It's really interesting. Sad, to be quite honest. I wish that it was a little bit different in terms of perspective, but it's not. Yeah,
it's just human nature. And I mean, starting in 2008, I can only imagine your own self-doubt because it's like, you know, no one knows what's going to happen and it's doomsday for everyone. Did you experience any major sacrifices or setbacks in the very beginning?
I would be lying if I said that there was not nerves. I'm a creature of habit, which is so ironic because what I do for a living is something that changes on a day-to-day basis. I don't have the exact same routine or schedule any day of the week. So it's ironic that I got into this industry because I am really sort of hardwired that way. But, you know, in the beginning, I was just grateful to have, I think, some clients initially, which was a blessing. But truth be told, there were moments where I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to make my car payment? This brand new car that I just bought. Like, how am I going to pay my bills?
Tell me about those times. Like, what's a time where you struggled and you're like, wow, maybe this isn't the right move, or maybe it is the right move, but you're just so scared or you've experienced that you might lose your car, your house, or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, we've all had those moments, and I've sat there many times at the dinner table the first 3, 4, 5 months going, wow, there is very little income coming in. I can barely, keep my, bills paid. What happens next month? I don't have guaranteed income. How am I going to cultivate business? And I'm not somebody who believes in advertising. That was not part of my philosophy. It's still not. To this day, I've never advertised my business as 100% repeat and referral, which in the beginning, you don't have that. So it was even harder. And I really found in those moments, yes, it was difficult in terms of looking at the numbers and figuring out how you're going to pay your bills. But what was most challenging was really having some of your values and your key ideals challenged. Because it would have been so easy for me to sell out and go a different route, maybe take clients that I normally wouldn't have taken or take projects that were out of my scope. But I didn't. In the beginning, from the very beginning, I was picking and choosing my business. I wanted to cultivate my brand, which a brand has intangible value. And that was hard. It was hard choosing between, do I want a client where I know there's going to be income every month, or do I want to leave that space free because I really don't think that client either has the vision or is a client that I could develop? That was tough.
Yeah, it's, you hit the nail on the head, because we experience this every day, and I mean, everyone does, but you've got your principles and your morals and your business model and everything in play. And then when you're in need of the money and those things are tested, it's very tough, because there's plenty of times where, we're asked to discount our commission or do things that we don't do, like as our core philosophy. And it's like, well, God, man, that's $15,000 that I'm going to piss away if I say no. But you can't, It sounds crazy, but you cannot make decisions based on money.
No.
Otherwise, it's totally reflective of your whole business model when you start doing that.
If you lead with the dollar, you're never going to make a clear-minded decision ever. No one ever does.
Yeah, I completely agree. So I know that every day is different for you, but could you kind of give us a run through of maybe a day in the life? I want to go through your morning routine later, but just a day in the life of, like, when you're working, what does that look like?
A day in the life. I have a very, very busy schedule because, like I said, I'm the one working one-on-one with my clients. So it's a crazy mixture of conference calls, dealing with social media, crisis communications. You never know with clients and their own communities what's going to happen. You have no idea. So there are days where I might start out on one path and there's something that happens that I have to deal with right then and there, which can completely throw me off. It's not uncommon for me to, be shipping items out to a client. Maybe if there's an apparel client and I need to ship product to a magazine house on the East Coast. Meetings, face-to-face meetings. I'm out with people all the time. And I think the most draining part of my job is I'm also out at events all the time. Right. So people get into PR and there's this misconception that it's so fun to be a publicist and you get to go to all these parties. Let me tell you, that's cool for about 2 weeks. And then when you're working 12 to 14-hour days and then you have to go to a 4-hour dinner party, that is the last thing you want to do.
With your game face on.
Oh my gosh, you better look like $1 million.
Yeah.
It's just, it's something, I tell you.
So with all that being said, what aspect of the business is your favorite versus what aspect you maybe kind of avoid and push off to the end?
My absolute favorite part of my job, honestly, are the little wins that I see clients get. That extra jump in sales each month. The extra jump in clientele, a client getting a placement in a magazine where they've always wanted coverage, or getting a television spot they've always wanted. Those for me are huge moments, not just for me, even though it of course looks great for my firm, but it's huge for that client. And to see that client so happy is beyond exciting. I live for days off of those moments. The things I tend to steer away from are things that are manufactured. I'm a very authentic person, and I don't bullshit very well, excuse my language, but
we welcome that kind of language here.
Oh, shit, damn.
We encourage it.
Having to go out to some of these stuffy parties gets a bit old after a while. So now that I've been doing this for a bit, I do tend to pick and choose what events I do and don't go to, thank God.
So you said you like the little wins that you see your clients get. What has been like your most proud moment? Like whether it's with one specific client, getting that jump in sales, or, can you speak to that one moment where you're like, wow, like I did a good job and it's reflected in the results, and just like I said, a proud moment?
There's so many, and they're all so different. But one that was really bittersweet, honestly, was early on, so 2009, I was offered an opportunity to work with Blue Bayou, who manufactures and designs all of the swimwear for like Roxy and Billabong.
Sure.
And one of the founders decided to purchase the rights to all of recycled nylon Creora, which is an eco-friendly material for swimwear. And he purchased all those rights in the US, parts of Canada, parts of Europe, and then all of the Asian countries for really inexpensive, right? Well, he designed a gorgeous line of swimwear called Eco Panda and happened to bring me on, of all people, and looking back, I don't know why, maybe because I didn't know what I was getting myself into, I'm not sure, to launch his line. And we worked together for a year and a half before we successfully got the company sold to the largest knitting mill in China called Hyungsung.
Wow.
Which was bittersweet for me because it was the end of the working relationship because the product was sold or the brand was sold. But it was so rewarding because we set out to do what he wanted to do and we achieved it in such a short period of time. And the fact that he entrusted me as really a no-name publicist to do that was such a huge honor.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to this day, we still talk, off and on. He's a great guy, and I'm just so appreciative of that. It was such a unique experience.
That's awesome. How much of your business do you think is generated here in Orange County?
It's a big percentage now. It's probably about 70%.
Oh, wow, that's good. But you're still doing national work and...
Still doing national work. Some clients in New York, Miami, Texas, Dallas area.
And I see that you're really involved with a number of different charities.
Yes.
Can you touch on that? What's your level of involvement? Is it donations? Is it that you have a personal connection to these, or how does that work?
From a very young age, I always felt like there were so many people around me who, really for no specific reason, gave me either a foot in the door or a pat on the back when I needed it. And so starting my own business, I really wanted to be able to give back. Not just financially, because let's face it, it's really easy for someone to write a check. And to me, that's passive giving, and I appreciate and respect that. But getting involved is so much different. And really, that's where I see a reward, is being involved and seeing change happen and being part of what's propelling change forward. So when I started my firm, that became a part of my philosophy, as I really wanted the clients that I work with to be involved with philanthropy and to have a passion for giving back. So you'll find a lot of the brands that I work with are involved in that. Me personally, there's a few that really resonate with me. Chalk is a huge one. CASA, which stands for Court Appointed Special Advocates, is a great organization. Child Help, another wonderful organization. JDRF, which is Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. And then also, any of the organizations that support cancer research, I tend to be a big supporter of. I've lost 8 family members in my lifetime to different forms of cancer, so it hits home with me, on a real deep level.
Yeah, and you mentioned Chalk. We're a Chalk office. We're actually called a Children's Miracle Office. That's a term that RE/MAX uses for offices that contribute portions of their commission to every child at Chalk, through their program. And I hear what you're saying with like the check thing, because I feel like it's almost, more than me, but it's totally a publicity move to found a charity.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh yeah, I own this charity. It's like, oh my God, you're taking all these pictures. You're in, the high-end magazines, all this stuff. But it's like, how in touch with that charity are you really? Because to your point, it's like, it's easy to write a check, and it's easy to maybe not even know where the money goes, but just say, I did it, and look. But to actually get involved and show your face, it makes a huge difference.
Well, and I just feel like I've been blessed with a platform, and if I can use that platform to garner awareness for worthy causes, why not? Why wouldn't I do that?
Yeah, exactly. And another thing I want to touch on is with being an entrepreneur and with starting your very own business, there's obviously the concern that you're going to fail, or whether that's monetary and you're not going to make enough money, or that there's an opportunity cost that's being overlooked. What are some ways that you have to face rejection in your daily life?
Well, the truth is, when you work with media, rejection happens every day. You don't start negotiating press stories and assume that everybody's going to agree to what you're pitching. That's just not reality. And that's really shaped, my attitude when it comes to things about I love the answer no. It means we're not done talking yet. And really, those conversations challenge me to grow as a person, because it helps me pitch better stories, craft better angles, which in turn produces better results for my clients. You know, and I think working with so many different clients, the truth is, if you're working with them like I'm working with them hand in hand, you celebrate everyone's successes, but you experience the losses as well. Because I'm closely connected to my clients. So when my client has a bad day, I have a bad day. You know, I take ownership in the brands that I work with, and there's, I think, something to be said for that. So,
is there like a standard pricing model? Like, if say someone's listening to this and they're, you know, they own a real estate company, or they own a clothing company, or whatever it is, a gym, and they're thinking, you know, this is exactly what we need. We need a professional that can give us the exposure that we need and growth. Is there like set pricing, or how does that work?
A lot of traditional firms do have set pricing. It looks just like a sample menu list. You can cut and paste what you want. To me, I don't believe in cookie cutter solutions. So I don't get that. It doesn't make sense to me. All of our proposals are custom for each client, depending upon what the client's goals are, what support I think they need. And that's a big factor in terms of putting together a proposal. What do I think they need? It's not about what the client necessarily thinks they need, because when I'm meeting with a client might not understand from the outsider's perspective or from an industry perspective what support they actually are missing, what holes they need to plug to get to the next level. And so the proposals I put together are really presentations for what I think they absolutely have to have in order to get to their goals and objectives, which, you know, for some clients, they might go, oh, well, I just want a firm to do some graphic design, or can you just make me a logo? I don't really take that kind of work, because for me, it's about representing a brand. I'm not interested in just having piecemealed work farmed out. That's not my firm. Not for me.
So what do you think is on the horizon for Sterling, like in the next year versus the next 5 years?
Oh, well, I will tell you, there's a really exciting project coming up that I may be working on. It is involved, or it does involve, rather, the automotive industry, which would be great. I can't exactly speak about it yet, but it's coming up here in June. We're negotiating contracts as we speak, so we'll see where that pans out, yes. You know, in the next 5 years, I've thought about the next 5 years a lot, because I'm quickly approaching my 10-year anniversary with my firm. And I've always said at that 10-year mark, I want to be able to look back and say, what have I built? What kind of legacy is there, and how can I grow? And right now I'm just starting to craft where I want to sort of finish, if you will, at that point. One thing for sure is I don't want to change my philosophy. I have no interest in having a staff of 10 or 20 or 50 people. So I just hope I remain really healthy and dialed in so I can continue servicing my clients.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I've got 5 more questions for you. Number 1. What is your morning routine?
Well, I have a very bossy Siberian Husky, so if I'm not out of bed at 5:30, she will come in, start to jump on the bed, which with an 80-pound dog, that's a little alarming if you're in a dead sleep. So usually I get up, I take her out right away. She was also named after my company, so I have Sterling Public Relations and Sterling the Siberian Husky, so we got that name covered.
Oh, I love that.
Yep. Following her half-hour walk for her to do what she needs to do, I hit the gym. I do not miss a workout any day of the week. I'm sorry, I have to have it.
What kind of working out do you like to do?
Oh, I felt really guilty.
Oh yeah, I mean, you should.
If I miss a workout, honestly, that screws up my entire day. It gets my adrenaline going, helps me focus.
Is that 7 days a week or 5 days a week?
It's for me 7 days a week. Although I will say on Sundays, that's my day to do something outdoors. And I do a lot of afterburn training at the 12, which I'm sure you've heard of. Mm-hmm. I do some yoga during the week as well. But I do like to go outside and hike on Sundays. There's a lot of great trails here in Orange County, and it's a great day for me to get my husky out. So after a workout, I always have tea, black tea, non-negotiable. I eat clean, so it's either sweet potatoes and egg whites or steel-cut oats with some fruit. And then I'm on to my day.
Love that. Jordan has a look of guilt. I think he's crying. Are you crying?
I'm like, what's the exact opposite of that morning routine? I'll have to write that down. Like my everything bagel with cream cheese.
Yeah, exactly.
Sounds good.
Like a roll out of bed around 9:30, 10.
Oh yeah, I love it.
What's your favorite quote or maybe a philosophy that you live by?
Because life is not a dress rehearsal. That is actually the slogan for my company. It's on the homepage of my website. And that was said to me by an instructor of mine in college, actually. There was a student who didn't complete some work as they needed to, and I'll never forget her saying, life is not a dress rehearsal, and that's my philosophy. We don't get today back, so when you walk out that door, from the way you're dressed to how you start your day to how you end your day, you need to be proud of that.
Yep. Yeah, I like that. What's your biggest struggle to date? I mean, since 2008 to now, ultimate biggest struggle.
Ultimate biggest struggle. Truth be told, because of how I go about marketing or not marketing my firm, that was the biggest struggle. The first 3 years, it took a while to get repeat and referral business coming in, and the 3-year mark for me was huge, because at that point it just became so much easier. My name had been out there, my company had been seen enough, and I was definitely more confident in that point about being able to build. I'd laid a really good foundation, but those first 3 years were tough,
So year 3 was the tipping point.
Absolutely.
What's the most inspiring book you've ever read, or maybe your favorite book to give to other people?
I read a lot, and there's so many great books. I'm an avid reader, but I think The Art of War is probably one of my favorite books. There's just some great philosophy in there that I think can be applied not only professionally but personally as well.
So you're very, very busy. Where do you find the time to read? At what point in the day do you sit down and read?
Very, very end of the day. It's the last thing I do almost every day. I would say 5 days a week, like between 10:30 and 11. I'm usually laying in bed reading a book. And a book, mind you. None of this ebook crap. I'm old school. I want a book. I need to feel the page and smell the book. I'm sorry.
And I was like, it's like, look how much I've read.
Yes, accomplishment, right? I can see it.
What's your biggest success to date? And it's not how far you've gotten in a book. But I mean, Jordan had touched on this earlier, and maybe it's the same answer, but maybe it's a proud moment. But I mean, if you were to say, if I was I've never heard of Sterling, what's something you can hang your hat on? What's one major milestone that I'd be like, oh, wow, I'm impressed by that?
I would say the most interesting part of my career is I did spend 5 years doing marketing and branding for my husband's company, which is called Eurocar. He's been in business 30 years, and so he had never brought in anyone to market or advertise his firm or do any branding work. And, it was something that started off like, hey, honey, would you mind helping me out, to me actually taking on an official role. And I think what was so exciting is we took his company in 2010 from small warehouse on 17th Street in Costa Mesa, 20 cars, and he was doing so well, we moved into a 55,000 square foot showroom on a different part of Costa Mesa with over 100 cars in inventory. I landed them cover stories on F&I magazine, which is a really popular automotive industry publication. He was on the cover of OC Register, Daily Pilot, LA Times. He was a feature story for eBay Automotive. We had executives from all of the big manufacturers flying out to see what our quote-unquote little pre-owned dealership was doing. So that was huge, for a couple reasons. One, I previously had no automotive experience. And two, that company had never had anyone doing marketing and PR, but had been in business for a significant amount of time. So it was interesting to see massive growth from just making some strategic marketing decisions.
Well, that worked.
Yeah.
I'm impressed.
Yeah.
Okay, so people who are listening to this, if they want to get a hold of you, what's the best way they can do that? How can they contact you?
They can go to my website, sterlingpublicrelationsoc.com. You can also check me out on Facebook. We have a Facebook page, Sterling PR.
And are you on Instagram at all?
I am on Instagram. It's at Sterling PR.
Awesome. Cool. So there you have it, guys. That's Paula Steurer with Sterling Public Relations. I don't think I could name my pet after the brand here, or vice versa. I don't think people would buy into Carl Real Estate.
Yeah, I don't know. Although I love Carl. Carl is cute.
He's a little mascot. So, anyways,
not little.
You can
That's
get a hold
true.
of Paula. Go to sterlingpublicrelations.com. Find her on Facebook and Instagram. And thank you so much for being
Thank
on the
you
show.
for having
Really
me.
appreciate it.
Thanks, you guys.
If you would like to be on the Prestige Living podcast or know someone that would be a great guest, go to www.prestigelivingpodcast.com. We'd love to hear your story.
As a reminder to all of our listeners, RE/MAX Prestige services all of Orange County for tenants, buyers, and sellers looking for VIP service, zero pressure, and optimal results. Whether you're looking for your first condo at $150,000 or selling your $5 million luxury home, we are your solution. This week's testimonial comes from Chad Ziesman, who writes, I feel very fortunate to have had a RE/MAX Prestige agent as my realtor. We all know people who have had bad experiences with realtors, so I was a little apprehensive in the beginning. However, it did not take me very long to realize that my agent was the right man for the job. He answered all of my questions no matter when or where he happened to be, and I had numerous questions. Also, his knowledge of the market and understandings of the ins and outs is what allowed me to obtain my home. Timing is everything, and my experience could have not been any better. For anyone who's looking for the best, I would highly recommend using RE/MAX Prestige. Personally, I hold them in extremely high standards, and they far exceeded my expectations. So, there you have it. Another example of our core philosophy, representing our clients' best interests at all times. Like us on Facebook by searching RE/MAX Prestige, and feel free to reach us online at prestigelivingpodcast.com.